Wars are usually started by nations, by kings, presidents, treaties, or invasions. They brew slowly, strategically, through diplomacy and power moves. But what if I told you the deadliest war in human history didn't begin with a declaration or an army crossing a border? It started with a teenager, one boy, one pistol, 2 bullets, and a sandwich. This is not a joke. This is real, and it changed the world. His name was Gavrilo Princip. He was 19 years old. He believed his people were being crushed by an empire. And on one summer morning in 1914, he fired the shots that started World War I to understand how this happened. How a sick teenager with a revolver triggered a war that would kill over 20 million people. We have to go back. Europe in the early 20th century was a pressure cooker. The big players, Britain, France, Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Russia, were all competing for dominance. They were building massive armies, carving up Africa and Asia, and watching each other nervously. They had treaties, alliances, secret deals, mutual defense pacts. If one domino fell, they'd all go down. But there was one place where the tension was different, more personal, more explosive. The Balkans, a messy patchwork of ethnic groups, languages, and religions. It had once been ruled by the Ottoman Empire. Now it was a battleground of fading empires and rising nationalism. At the center of it all was Serbia, a small, proud country with a big dream: to unite all South Slavs into one independent nation. Standing in the way of that dream was Austria-Hungary. This empire, a complex mix of Austrians, Hungarians, Czechs, Slovaks, Croats, and Bosnians, was terrified of nationalism, because nationalism for them meant rebellion, breakup, collapse. In 1908, Austria-Hungary had annexed Bosnia, a region filled with ethnic Serbs. Serbia saw it as theft. Bosnians saw it as occupation. Tension turned into hate, hate into plotting, now plotting into a group of teenagers with a gun. Enter the Black Hand. It sounds like something out of a spy novel, but it was real. A secret Serbian military society formed to fight for Serbian independence. Their methods, assassinations, sabotage, propaganda, their goal: free the Serb people, by any means necessary. Among their recruits was Gavrilo Princip. Born in 1894 in a poor Bosnian village, Gavrilo was small, sickly, and quiet. But beneath that, he was angry. Angry at the empire that ruled his land. Angry at the poverty, the injustice, the helplessness. As a student, he read poetry and revolutionary tracts. He believed deeply in the cause of liberation. When the Black Hand asked if he was willing to die for it, he said yes. By the spring of 1914, Princip and a small group of co-conspirators were training in secret, smuggling weapons, and planning something big. Their target? Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne. Franz Ferdinand was a controversial figure. He was a conservative who wanted to reform the empire, not break it up, but centralize power, maybe even create a triple monarchy that included Slavs. Ironically, his ideas might have helped reduce some of the ethnic tensions. But to the Black Hand, he was still a symbol, a crown prince, foreign ruler. And on June 28, 1914, he would be in Sarajevo. That date wasn't random. June 28th was Vidovatan, a sacred Serbian holiday, commemorating the Battle of Kosovo in 1389, when the Serbs lost to the Ottomans. A day of grief and defiance. For the Black Hand, it was the perfect day to strike. On the morning of the assassination, the streets of Sarajevo were buzzing. The Archduke and his wife Sophie arrived by train, met with officials, then boarded an open-top car. They were set to tour the city in a motorcade. No bulletproof glass, no heavy security, just a few policemen, a route printed in the newspaper. And 6 assassins scattered along the way. Each had a pistol. Some had grenades. Most were young, nervous. Princip was among them. 10:10 a.m., the Archduke's car passed the first assassin. He froze. The second did too. Was the third man Nedeljko Vabrnovia, who threw a grenade. It bounced off the folded-down roof of the car and exploded under the next vehicle, injuring passengers. Franz Ferdinand was unharmed. The motorcade sped away. The assassins scattered. Gavrilo swallowed cyanide and jumped into a river, but survived both. The mission had failed, or so it seemed. Princip, shaken, thought it was over. He walked through the city, reportedly went to buy a sandwich, or perhaps just stood near a cafe to collect himself. Meanwhile, the Archduke insisted on changing his schedule. He wanted to visit the wounded in the hospital. A noble gesture, dangerous one. No one told the driver about the route change. At around 10:45 a.m., the car took a wrong turn, onto Franz Joseph Street, right past the cafe where Gavrilo Princip stood. What happened next is hard to believe. The car stalled. Right in front of him, no guards nearby, no crowd blocking the view. Princip stepped forward. He raised his pistol and fired 2 shots. The first hit Franz Ferdinand in the neck. The second struck Sophie in the abdomen. She reportedly cried out, "For God's sake, what has happened to you?" then slumped over. They both died within minutes. Chaos erupted. Princip was tackled, beaten by police and civilians, and arrested on the spot. He tried to shoot himself. Failed. He tried to swallow poison. It didn't work either. He had succeeded in his mission, and unintentionally started a global catastrophe. Austria-Hungary was enraged. They blamed Serbia, accusing them of sponsoring terrorism. They issued an ultimatum with impossible demands. Serbia accepted most, but not all. Austria declared war. Russia, Serbia's ally, mobilized its army. Germany, allied with Austria, declared war on Russia. France backed Russia. Germany invaded Belgium to get to France. Britain, defending Belgium, entered the war. In weeks, the world was on fire. World War I had begun. It lasted for years. Over 20 million people died. Tens of millions more were wounded. The map of Europe was redrawn. Empires collapsed. Austro-Hungarian, Ottoman, Russian, German. Revolution broke out in Russia, birthing the Soviet Union. The seeds of fascism were planted in Germany. And the Treaty of Versailles, meant to bring peace, created the anger that would fuel World War II. All from 2 bullets. Gavrilo Princip was put on trial. Because he was under 20, he couldn't be executed under Austro-Hungarian law. Instead, he was sentenced to 20 years. He was already sick, with tuberculosis and malnourishment. He wasted away in a cold, dark cell, chained, forgotten. He lost use of his right arm, had a rib removed due to infection, and finally died in 1918. The same year the war ended. He was 22. Some see him as a hero, a martyr for Serbian independence. Others see him as a fanatic, a terrorist who unleashed hell. He himself, in his final days, is said to have expressed regret, not for the cause, but for the consequences. He never imagined the scale of what he had started, and that's the most haunting part. History doesn't always turn on great battles or epic speeches. Sometimes it turns on chance. On a wrong turn, a delay, coincidence. A teenager with a pistol, and a moment of opportunity. That's the tragedy of Gavrilo Princip. He didn't start World War I, but he lit the match in a room filled with gunpowder. The war would have come eventually, some argue. The alliances were too tight, the empires too fragile. But in that moment, that one moment, the fuse was lit. So the next time someone says, one person can't change anything, remember this. One teenager, one pistol, one wrong turn. The world was never the same again. History isn't always made by generals or presidents. Sometimes it's made by a boy on a sidewalk with shaky hands and a loaded gun.